Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Alex Cook. So, I am an officer in the U.S. Army. Just recently got out, and I am going to do this reaction video to a video game I used to play, Battlefield 3. They had a tank mission. So, I was an engineer officer. So, I had a platoon of combat engineers, 12 Bravos. So, one thing I'm going to talk about in particular is towards the end of this, they do what's called a Miklik breach, line clearing mine charge. So that's some as engineers, that is our specialty, so I'm going to talk through that a little bit, but I'm also going to comment on things as I see it. The one thing, though, just to remember, too, is it's a video game. Like, you play it to have fun, not to be, like, the most realistic thing of all time. Otherwise, it might be a pretty boring game if you're just filling out paperwork or doing other stuff that you normally see in the Army. In this case, it's the Marines as portrayed. Alright, so when he said advance toward LOD, they would have already crossed the LOD at this point. LOD is the line of departure, so these guys are already rolling. When it says Anvil Actual, that call sign, I don't know if Anvils are company or battalion, but either way, Actual, that's more of a Marine thing. Army, the commanding officer, we call it Anvil 6. Are the scouts in contact? Is that UAV, or is that just sort of like an inject? They're already moving out the full throttle. Alright, so Redcon 1, you would have called that up a long time ago. So they're already long past Redcon 1 at this point. So that's when they're getting ready. My squad leaders would call up to me. So my call sign was Ares 26. It's a, 2621 Redcon 1, 2622 Redcon 1, and then when my whole platoon is ready, then I call up to Ares 6. 6 is 26 Redcon 1. So like that would have already happened. So I saw some commenters say that this might have been based on the Battle of 73 Eastings. I'm not sure if that's the case, or they're saying that because that was like a really famous tank battle in Desert Storm, and this is meant to be like another Middle Eastern environment in the game. The reason I say that, so 73 Eastings, little background, so I was in 3rd Cavalry Regiment, so our sister unit, 2nd Cavalry Regiment, they were very involved in 73 Eastings. So that was hunter killer teams of Bradleys and Abrams tanks, in this case just Abrams. So I wonder if they're saying that just because, that was like a really famous tank battle. I'm not sure that's really what was like supposed to be portrayed here. Either way, though, this seems like a really close range engagement. I'm curious if any 19 series tankers could chime in, but this seems like a really close range engagement. I don't know if it's meant to just simulate the optics, like cranked up all the way, like zoomed all the way in, but it seems like, we would have been hitting those targets, or they would have been hitting us much sooner. It seems like we're like right on top of them. Also, one thing that stands out, too, is if that's the enemy's initial defensive line, like, they just got completely wrecked. Like, you would think, if you're the enemy, and the American military is about to invade you, you would set up some sort of defensive line. Not just a few tanks that immediately proceed to die, because they're T-72s, which are ancient at this point, and you have modern, like, Abrams tanks. You would expect there to be, like, some kind of anti-tank ditches, minefields, wire obstacles, maybe some forward observers, so like calling arty on you. Instead, they're just sending in these tanks kind of piecemeal, not even in dug-in positions, and they're promptly dying. One other thing, so thermals, those would be black and white, not green. I think that's just a gameism, because, you see the movies, in the movies, night vision's always green, so I think that's what they're trying to portray there. So one thing, full disclosure, too, is that we were strikers, we were not tanks. From what I do understand, though, having the rucksacks on the sides of the tanks, that is actually how they do that. That's what we do the strikers, too. Alright, so the enemy just drops some arty on us.
They got us zeroed in.
If they got you zeroed in, the last thing you're going to do is halt. Zeroed in means they know where you are and they're getting accurate fire on you. Like, you should leave. Because they're hitting you now with much heavier stuff than what a T-72 can hit you with. Like, that could wreck you. Alright, so there are things like OSR VT computers that you can see drone feeds. Just I've never seen one hooked up to a tactical vehicle like that. Granted, we were strikers. I don't know if an Abrams or a Bradley has that capability, but I kind of doubt it. I think this is more just like a gameism that you wouldn't really be patching like a video feed like this to a tactical vehicle, or at least I've never seen that. Maybe you could rig up like a command vehicle to have some kind of special feed as like a mobile talk or like attack on the move, but you know a PL or even a company commander probably wouldn't have this. It'd be their battalion S2 that'd be pushing reports down to them. BDA minimal. I mean, A10 just came through and dropped a whole lot of ordnance, but well, it's a game. And meanwhile, Anvil is getting artillery rained on it. Yeah, if you're taking indirect and they have you zeroed in, you don't hold. You should leave. So when he said loading heat, that stands for a high explosive anti-tank. You can kind of use that as general purpose instead of a Sabo round, which we'll talk about later. So Sabo, you would only use that to fight tanks, because it's not explosive, it's basically just like this super high velocity dart. Alright, so they're about to roll up on this enemy fob. Again, the enemy has no, like, obstacles set up at all. They're just letting you just merrily waltz your way through in there. I mean, yeah, they drop some arty on you, but you'd expect, you know, something, like wire obstacles or something. Because otherwise, well, the American tank's going to come through and you're going to die. So I wouldn't just send in tanks to clear this. I would try to get some infantry out to clear it. Or, I mean, if you have direct observation on these guys, I'd call in some fires of my own. You know, 155s, mortars, or something. Because I mean, you should have some organic mortars with you. Whether it's carried like 113s or something. Either way, I mean, that's definitely an aggressive move. Very aggressive, just send your tanks in there without any kind of dismount support. Because, I mean, there's all kind of corners that the enemy could hide behind. You know, you don't know what's inside there, so you'd want to get some dismounts in there. But, again, it's a video game. Especially because that is your high payoff target. Yeah, that's definitely a high payoff target that you just took out. Like some serious arty like that. The fact that they're just firing... Okay, so, pause real quick. So that was enemy rocket arty. So I doubt real world that something like that could fire that long without our counterfire lighting it up. Because we'd have counterfire radar seeing that and realizing, hey, this isn't just like a little mortar they're popping off with, but like this is their big guns. Because this is not an insurgent force. Like this is enemy military that they're going up against. So you'd think that our counterfire would have hit it beforehand. Counterfire, it's our radars would track where the artillery is coming from. It have a computer that calculates it, and then we immediately call in artillery on that. Of course, it's a video game. Real world, they're not going to have that little orange... Yeah, it's very kind of the enemy to just identify themselves, that little orange dot above. Like, hey, please shoot me. But, you know, it's a game. Real world, you know, your crews would be going through gunnery, so they'd be able to, like, do a lot of repetitions, identified, hey, it's enemy vehicle, friendly vehicle. Alright, now it looks like the enemy actually has some kind of defensive berm that they're, you know, shooting from tanks that are dug in. Looks like just a platoon of them.
Good shooting. Keep it up. Enemy pulling back. 3-3. Watch yourself. Take the weight that's in.
You think they're baiting you in, yet you're going in anyway. So that is sort of a thing, though, where the enemy might set up like a multi-layer defense, or we call it a defense in depth, where they have a disruption zone to soften us up, maybe that was this, and then a kill zone, or a battle zone where they'd actually try to fight us after they've softened us up. That dude should just kept on driving, but he's a computer AI, not a real tank driver. No, that looked like a pretty direct hit that you just took, not a grazing hit. I think you'd probably be on the move. You wouldn't just be stationary shooting like that. Yeah, if you had Bradleys too, like the Bradleys would be firing their tow missiles.
Identify vehicles, dead ahead.
Alright, so they're about to run into enemy logistics convoy. Which, I mean, if that was the case, like, you really broke through their lines, like, if you can hit their supply trains at this point. No obstacles, no anti-tank ditches, no wire. There'll be a minefield in a little bit, you'll see. But point is, they pretty much just let you walk right in through. They sent a few tanks, and obviously you chop them down real quick. Enemy cargo trucks and dismounts. Yeah, that dude should just kept on driving. American tanks are shooting at me. What do I do? How about I just stop here and let them shoot at me more accurately? Great special effects. The truck just disappears. No boom. It just disappears.
All right, let's get the go act. Engage the infantry. Fire in the gun. Cease fire. Cease fire. 3-3, Roger. F-66-34. Engaged and destroyed multiple enemy vehicles and infantry. Over. Roger. Swing west and proceed to highway. Advise when checkpoint reached.
Probably wasn't even infantry. It was probably just like the dudes driving the truck. Like the enemy logistics guys, the enemy transpo, or enemy supply.
Better gun than me, man. M66-34, we're at checkpoint teleback now.
Alright, so that is the thing. You'd be calling up your frontline trace when you get a certain checkpoint, so higher command, they know where you're at on the map. They know where all the friendly forces are.
Why are we cutting across the desert? It's crazy. Because they told us not to.
So one thing, if you're an actual tanker, like if you're actual 19 series, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't... Now, granted, it's a tactical environment, but I think longer distances, you wouldn't really want to travel on the hardball road. You'd want to pull off in the dirt, because I think that's bad for your tank treads. I mean, I know short distances, I know it's a tactical environment, though. Tactical environment meaning, yeah, you're not too worried about the treads. You're going to kill the enemy first.
What is it?
Okay, so what's coming up next is going to be the Miklik breach, and there's a lot wrong with this one, so I might have to pause it a few spots. But, so what's going on is enemy has some obstacles, probably a minefield. A Miklik, it's a giant rocket that shoots out, and it pulls 2,000 pounds of C4 on this big string, this big cable. That cable lands on the enemy obstacles, it goes boom, and it clears everything out. How it's portrayed in the game, though, is not accurate. Like, first of all, so if we're breaching something, that means we're at the enemy's front line. We wouldn't have our fuelers, they wouldn't be anywhere close to this at all. Like, we would not have logistics vehicles anywhere close to this. Because, like, this is the enemy's front line. We're not going to have our logistics dudes anywhere near this where they can get hit. Because we need these fuel trucks for later. Like, we need them to be alive. They need to be well behind our front line.
Looks like someone from Hatchet outfit. That transport? Engineers. Someone tell that.
Alright, so you can see up ahead, all the engineers have up there is like a Humvee and a Miklik trailer. You're not just going to waltz up to the enemy's front line. Like, the armor would be up there too, or infantry would be up there too, getting suppression. You know, there's a whole acronym called SOSRA. They begin suppression, they begin direct fires on that so the engineers can move up. And the engineers be firing their own direct fires too on the enemy to keep their heads pinned down. But they wouldn't just be like waltzing their way in like that. Because again, it's the enemy's front line. They're not just going to let you breach them. They're going to shoot back. I don't know why he dismounted from a tank to do that. I mean, if they have Bradleys or the Marines, you know, they have their vehicles, the Lavs, they might dismount from those. But the tanks, you fight mounted out of those. Now, again, armor guys, because I was Strikers, correct me if I'm wrong, but Abrams, like that's a fighting tank. You fight in the Abrams. Bradleys, you'd get out and you'd fight out of those. Bit of an oversimplification. The Bradley would be shooting too, but like it's fire team in the back would be shooting.
Fucking PLR ambushed us.
No, they didn't ambush you. They did their job. Like the enemy military, like they're supposed to shoot back. You were not ambushed. You ran into their front line, and their front line did frontline things.
Shot us to shit before we were ready.
Yeah, they shot you up because you're in a Humvee. Like, where are your tanks?
I just need someone to get to the trigger and detonate it.
Is that an old school M16 that he's carrying? Like, yikes.
Somebody's got to get out there, but it ain't gonna be me.
Alright, so he's running up to the Miklik trailer. That is the launcher for that rocket that I was talking about. And it's being towed by a Humvee that is on fire because it's blown up. Like, yeah. You would not just send in a Humvee, just one Humvee by itself up there. I don't even see a 50 cal or some token weapon on top of that. That is the first thing the enemy is going to kill. And likewise, if we were defending, if the enemy brought up their engineers, that's the first thing we would kill to protect your obstacles. So, let's watch. So the time period that this video game is supposed to portray, I think they have the assault breacher vehicles after this point because it's supposed to be like mid-2010s is what it's talking about. So an assault breacher vehicle, it's a modified version of that, modified version of the M1, but instead of that Miklik trailer that you just saw, the turret is basically that, where it just shoots at Mikliks from the top of that. So especially as an armor formation, they'd be using the ABVs to breach it. The engineers be using those instead of this freaking Humvee trailer combination. Alright, real world, when one of those things goes off, it is way more epic. That's why I got kind of excited to review this video. But that is 2,000 pounds of C4. Like, you can feel that shockwave from, like, far away. Like, clicks away. Like, that thing wakes up the dead when it goes off. So, little poof for video game sound effects. But real world, like, that thing is freaking epic when it goes off. Yeah, it's a pretty big shockwave. Yeah, that's true. I don't know why you ever got out of the tank in the first place, but okay. Again, like, a tank crew will fight in the tank. Bradleys, they dismount. Marines, like in their labs, I'd assume they would dismount too as needed. Like, those are fighting vehicles, but, you know, they're meant to carry dismounts. Tank does not carry dismounts. A tank is a fighting vehicle. Granted, you know, I was strikers, so feel free to chime in if you're 19 series and I'm saying something like horribly stupid. I don't know why they're just stopping. Yeah, it's some video game like quirk. Let's just stop here and let them shoot RPGs at us. One thing I'll say though is that this tank company or battalion, whatever it is, like they're putting in some serious work. Like they just breach the enemy's line and no relief, no resupply, no refueling. They're just gonna now YOLO their way into the city limits. Alright, this part though, like when I was playing it for the first time, it was pretty fun to play though. Like this is a fun mission. Like I am pointing out some things that are, you know, I see now are not necessarily the most you know, hyper realistic, I guess you could say, but you know that's the point of this video. It was still a fun mission. Like you play video games to have fun. One thing this kind of reminded me of is, if you remember, like 2003, like during the invasion, like when that was like on live TV, a 3rd Infantry Division rolling into downtown Baghdad. That reminded me a lot of this. Like this is probably kind of like an homage to that, like that live TV feed of Sky TV, those reporters broadcasting live as they're rolling into Baghdad. I was in high school at the time. Feeling old now. See, now the bad dudes are actually putting up a good fight. They should have done that while they still had their tanks before you killed them all. They're fighting better dismounted than they're fighting mounted. They should have given this effort from the beginning when they actually had all their equipment with them before you killed it all. That's a Marine amphibious assault vehicle. So that'd be carrying their dismounts. Oh, VBED. It's a vehicle-borne IED. Catastrophic means it's a K-kill. Means those guys inside the tank, they're dead. The vehicle's dead. I mean, that's one way to do it. You could do an emergency stop there if you need to recover that tank. Just, you know, be advised, the enemy knows where you are, so... I would form a 360. I'd form a front and rear cordon. I wouldn't just stay there. Yeah, you get into more kind of defensive formation. The 50 cal finally run out of ammo? Or it's reloading? There we go. Say that'd be really unfortunate to run out of ammo when a VBED's coming at you. So one thing some tanks can do also is they can have a crow system on it, meaning instead of the gunner being outside that hatch exposed to, you know, bad dudes, snipers, whatever, is they can remote control it. How it's like a robot that controls the turret. It's a robotic gun turret, and it's controlled by a gunner who's actually inside the safety of the vehicle turret. It's like a trade-off, though. Like, you have more peripheral vision if you're outside of it, though. So, it's a trade-off. Protection versus, like, you know, more situational awareness. Probably first thing you should do before the new mission is refuel, resupply, maybe get some relief, because that unit's been put in work. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. I want to give a reaction on this. If there's other video games that you want me to react to, be happy to, because, you know, I used to play Call of Duty a decent amount, I used to play Battlefield a decent amount. End of the day, though, you play video games to have fun. So, you know, I'll point out things as I see it. It seems like that's what people are interested in, but Any other things you want me to react to, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and hit subscribe if you enjoyed this. Thanks.